Yeah.
So more or less we're rolling. Everything's recording, hopefully. The projection is just thinking, pretend someone was right in front of us. Like we talk to each other like this. But just give consideration like it's a fourth person with us. So, first and foremost, thanks for coming back, you two. The first time we met was not too long ago, and it was like a re-meeting of like familiar energies. So yeah, I could sit and talk to these guys for hours and days, and it's an upward spiral of consideration. That's the thing. It's not just talking. It's like we're going somewhere with this. Like it's a sharpening of whatever this thing is. So yeah, appreciate you coming out. So this is just a discussion. There is purposefulness in everything that each of us does, which is why it was a great moment to meet how we did, because you could see like, okay, this isn't just a coincidence. There is purpose in it. So we're gonna go through some purposeful topics of consideration, considering the world we're in right now, what's going on. And we can't sit with like 100,000 people, although it's more than 100,000 people talking about this or that want to hear different pieces and parts of this. So this is just a possibility and a seed planted for consideration of who may need to hear, feel, experience, or get a different perspective on the topics of discussion. So you can either introduce yourself or let it flow as we speak, because I don't do introductions. Y'all homies.
Yeah, well, I'm Armando Jackson from Puerto Limon, Costa Rica. But I live most of the times outside, and hopefully I'm returning to live here and be involved more with nature and farming. So it's my story.
Food. Give me the food. And you, sir?
Max Gilreath from the United States. I've lived here in the Caribbean for 4 years. Retired 6 years ago. And flowing with life here. We've been experiencing something very, I would say, traumatic and critical, especially to our health and well-being, which is the pandemic, COVID-19. And at least for me, top of mind, and this has been such for a long time now, but top of mind, especially now, is health and well-being, our health and wellness, as it relates, especially.
Speak up just a little bit so they catch you. Definitely, just a little more volume.
Talk a little
down,
okay.
Yeah. Because he's so chill.
Yeah.
He talking like little Barry White. Like I'm over here. You feel, I'm getting all the little bass. It's like, but I'm like, she not feeling it right now. And not like I am. It's crazy, but yeah. Just
I'm so relaxed, you know.
Like life is things happening, you know.
Yeah. So living here in Costa Rica's Caribbean, we certainly have an advantage, if you will, over many places in the world, from the standpoint that we're cradled in nature. On one side we've got the beach, on the other side we have the beautiful tropical rainforest. But kind of in the middle of all this, we have people that are challenged right now. As a life coach, I talk to people virtually daily that are trying to navigate the waters of uncertainty, the waters of what's next, the water of how do I cope.
But this isn't, for what you do as a life coach, that's kind of what you did. So nothing you're saying now, what I think for a life coach, what you're saying now would be any different based on the world change. Like those three things you just said, yeah, you do that with as a life coach with everyone. So this transition may have given those considerations a whole new depth, like dimension, which should be quite engaging for you right now.
It certainly is, and not only is it engaging for me with others, it's impacted me as well. I mean, Armando and I were talking about this a few days ago. Mental health and the ability to have healthy coping mechanisms.
Exactly. Yeah.
On a daily basis is so important now. More important now than at any other time that I can remember. What about you, Armando?
Yeah, no, I agree. But the other thing that you were also touching on is that the nutritional part of this, which is a huge problem, because I think if you have to, give food to your body, and the proper food, especially at this time when you're mentally, much more lower than usual, and if you don't nourish your body, your mind is not going to function well, and you can go into other problems that can develop, which is what we're talking about, mental illness. Not referring to grief or sadness, but real mental illness, which are either chemical, that can be caused by, like organs that are in your body that overproduce.
Question.
Yeah.
Is pedophilia a mental illness?
That no one can tell, because it could be a thing that the person might not be mentally ill, but I think they stop in a certain level in their life. I think they're
Of mental maturity?
They out of mental maturity, yeah. They go up to 3, 4 years, 5 years old, and then
in this phase of a relationship, because they're mature in other means.
They're mature, but they're at that level. They're 5 years old or 6 years old, and it sort of blocks. They think that as a human growing up, you go through many stages. You even go through something like all these things they're talking about, autism. You go through an autistic state also, but you have to pass through that in order to get on to the next stage, where people that are adults and they still can diagnose them with autism, they have stayed back in that, in that form. So that's the reason why I see it in that fashion. I know people, based on religion or based on culture, they might have different views, but I think that's what happens.
But sadness is different because it's not a progression through life. It's a moment.
It's a moment, exactly. It's a moment, and that moment might be up to a week or so, where depression is after that. Not only that, but
depression is after sadness?
It can become. You can become depressed due to sadness. No, you can become, because remember, sadness.
But sadness is the base.
Sadness and grief are completely different to me, because sadness, they're moments of positivity. When you're sad, somebody can come in and really cheer you up.
Is that you're mentally to get out?
No, it's just the way. That's the way. That's what sadness and grief is, basically. Somebody could have died, but then you remember them. Oh man, this guy used to swim so good and he used to fish so well, and you look at it very positive. If you're depressed, that part doesn't come in. It just looks down deeper.
Everything.
Or the example is going to be not like he could fish good and we like being around him and stuff like that, but I think that's what kind of. That's my opinion of these things. Why did you ask that question?
Because as you were talking about mental illness, with sadness and depression, I was wondering, in the world where pedophilia is becoming a more above ground discussion, and what it is and how it's treated and why it's so pervasive, I was just wondering if it's a mental illness, because there are people that are trying to use this term called ageism, something fluid ageism or something like that, where the relationship is I'm a child inside of a human body. So saying what you just said is I'm connecting. I don't have a mental illness or a problem. I just have, similar to what you said, I'm a child that is attracted to a child like this.
Yeah, Michael Jackson.
I don't know if he had I think he might have stopped, but his might not have been sexual. It might not have been.
See, and that's the thing. It
might not have been, so I don't know, could you call somebody Michael Jackson a pedophilia, where he never had, according to him, never had sex with any of these kids, but he wanted to be like them and at their level.
With them and around them.
Is that considered pedophilia also?
But here's another thing, just to be around children, the desire to be around children, there is no person that has gained a state of wisdom that does not see the value in that. There's not one. And on no level is a child ever truly a burden when you realize how the gift is to keep them untouched, unhinged, to protect that thing. Like, so, yeah, when people, that's why you have to be careful and really look at relationships that people have with children, because that thing we all know exists. It's like, I want to share and be around that energy, but there are these things that have been overlooked, misunderstood, mislabeled, because they're so finite. Like that whole, that little piece of you, that little piece never made a progression in maturity to understand that this is an awkward relationship based on all the other things that you are.
Yeah.
So that's why it came up.
Okay.
But dealing with stress and depression and these things taking place in the world right now based on changing circumstances, it's detrimental to find outlets. The way you said it, you were talking about did you say release, or what did you say? Because I always say, what's your creative outlet?
Yeah.
And people always get confused because not everyone considers themselves a creative.
Yes.
And so if I say that, that's almost pushing it for them to look at themselves and like, I'm not a creative, but I sketch sometimes, or I sing or I dance when I'm happy.
Most of the good people, most of the real professionals are like not going to school being a professional, but dancers, good dancers.
Yeah.
They all feel very low about themselves. It's just something I do.
Yeah, I mean, some of the biggest talents in the world has come from dysfunctional behavior. People that may have had really significant emotional and even spiritual challenges in life, and from that, some very significant things have come from that.
So, we were just talking about chaos, what it leads to, and I said chaos leads to creativity, which is, you said chaos leads to, what was the term?
It's actually creative chaos.
Creative chaos.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the reason I said that is because it is chaotic in a sense, because if somebody's viewing it from outside, it looks like a huge, thing with lines, and the part that's flashing towards you is creating something in your eyes, or whether it be space, a new planet being formed from an explosion, all this kind of stuff. So that's my definition. I know it's a.
Now here's the thing, this is where child trauma trickles. As much as we try and keep children away, there are these things that happen it just happens from experience. And childhood traumas they have this echoing effect that you could never stop. It just happens, and you deal with it if you could see it, deal with it as it progresses, but it's a part of you, it's a building block.
Exactly.
But child traumas are a part of creativity.
Yeah.
A lot, like you said, it's a lot of the dysfunctional people. It was something that happened.
But the only problem with that is that, which you're correct, but the only problem with that is that most kids, especially kids, if they didn't like whatever is, they suppress it. And that suppression turns into something else. And
still a part of it, yes.
Yeah,
okay, I'm with you.
It's still a part of it, but they turn it into something else. And that something else is the reminder for them, but they put it into a way that they see it as pleasant, whatever they turn it into, so that they can face it. And that's the only reason why they suppress it. They suppress it, and it pops up over here, but it's something else.
So it needs to be formed and faced like a bully.
Yeah, and so what you have to, so what you do is, in order to treat that problem, you have to find out what they're transforming that, whatever that thing is, into something else, and they have to find out what that is in order to heal it or soothe it or whatever way they want to do. If it's a treatment, that's.
Have you dealt with a childhood trauma in that way?
I probably did that.
Consciously faced.
I don't remember most of them, but I do remember happy things for some reason or other throughout my entire life as a child. I remember happiness and going up to the mountains and getting coconuts and walking through the bush with no shoes. The only shoes we had one pair of shoes that's for church and for school. And other than that, you're barefoot.
Yeah.
So I remember those things good for me.
Have you faced any childhood traumas head on? That, because again, these are traumas that if they're suppressed, like you said,
Yeah.
you just miss them. They become something else, or
Yeah.
you deal with them differently. Have you? So you say
Yeah. So
you remember
yeah,
happiness, and that doesn't mean that
that there was nothing bad, but
it's
you know,
so weird,
yeah,
man.
so you kind of push those out, and as you get older, maybe when I, you know, between 30 and 40 or something like that, maybe I had a different view of it, and then just transformed it after that into
Because you're like,
whatever
okay,
it is
acceptance.
now.
It's more acceptance. Because
Exactly.
once you get that, it's different. That's the true
That's an
release.
that's the exact word for it, acceptance.
Yeah.
And then you kind of, when you sell, you say, okay, well, I can't do nothing about it, and then you kind of accept it. But that's bad too.
Not do anything about it. It's
Yeah.
just I accept what has happened. I don't approve of it. I don't disapprove of it. It just, this is a part of what I am
Formed
and
me.
become, and I know. It's
Yeah.
just a part of my experience.
Yeah.
But can you think of any childhood traumas that you got to, you're like, wow, this happened, and okay, I dealt with this incident or moment in a certain way. And trauma is relative. It's
Yeah.
how you
Yeah.
face it.
Yeah, for me, the experiences I had that impacted me both at the time that it happened as well as over a period of time forward were experiences that at that time, being young, I didn't know what it meant. I didn't start to process it and to figure it out
Yeah.
until later in life. And then once I started to break the code on some things and say, okay, that's the reason why that happened. This is the reason why, and this was the stimulus or the environment, the background that caused that to happen. And so then I came out of my pain, if you will, into a place where I began, once I understood the problem and the situation, then I looked for solutions and a place to put that in a positive and productive way. So, and that really started for me with forgiveness.
You know what's very interesting thing is that I'm not saying, you know, whether you grew up with a father or mother or whatever, but some of my moments I didn't translate them like you translated your own. For some reason, my father was always with me, and every problem that I had went to my father. We had it was like 11 other sisters and brothers, and so if you had to form something from it, I didn't form it myself. I went to them, and them being older or my parent being older, they said, "This is what it is." See, I think there's a difference when you make your own decision on what's, you know, how to deal with it and forgiveness and all that, is to you've translated it yourself. Where there are other people.
I had to.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying, like, there are other people like me that if we saw any of your situations, what we would do is run over to your father, run over to your brother, and they're all older than me, and my mom. And so based on whichever of those things that I thought was incorrect or happiness or, because I can tell you some stories that I had when I was
I'll give you one.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I had to deal with what it was and how it affected me as a domino effect, the butterfly effect later. I'm going to say it in poem. I wrote it
Yeah.
because it's the same story and it's just the way I comfortably share it. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. Can we talk about the nightmares I once had? It's the reason I didn't scream when the screen showed horror scenes. My reality is way more bad. And it's way more sad when screaming through my notepads got me A's in poetry and art class. Flashback, the babysitter, our neighbor. Being a family friend played in her favor. Her brother was my best friend, so I didn't say much, though I never smiled when she asked me to play touch. It was always nap time when she come to wake up, only me, so we could go and play make love. This is not made up, there was no makeup. Time played its toll and affected my way of seeing love. And now I stray from relationships, so please listen when I say that this has affected me in so many different ways. So much hitting in my childlike silent gaze, thinking of those silent days and the way I still stray off to my own quiet place. When I cannot find the words to say, I make a space in my head to break free, to be me, release real stories, no dreams. This is my scream.
Wow.
So literally everything we talked
Powerful,
about,
man. You just said it.
Yeah.
we know we went through it though.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm sitting here listening. Like, you do. You make boxes. You deal with it. You don't know what is happening, but it has this effect. It's not positive or negative. It just kind of is.
Yeah.
And you can charge it later if you choose to. It's like,
Yeah.
so yeah, I dealt with all of that. So just listening, like, that was like, yeah, I'm just cool.
Yeah.
So thank you for
No,
perspective.
it's good that you.
That's how I write, man. That's
Yeah.
the music I'm putting in
Yeah.
the world right
Yeah.
now.
That's a very interesting thing, and that's why I was bringing up the fact about parenting and people growing up with parents or not, and how your parents perceive you, and that's what I want to also talk about if we ever get on this thing about mental illness.
We're
Because
there. Keep going.
yeah, no, the reason is because
How your parents perceive you is what you're just
how
saying.
parents perceive other people, like their own kids, not
Yeah,
not
yeah.
specifically me, but
Their children.
their children.
Yeah.
I was telling you about I didn't make up any of my.
Yeah, you
I
create
didn't
it.
translate any of them. Somebody explained to me what that is. Okay, where Max was saying that he later on looked at it, analyzed it, and then came up with his own opinion, and that's where he comes up with the word forgiveness. But the thing is that a lot of kids here, especially in the Caribbean, right here in this little town, they're growing up with mental illnesses, but no one calls it that. Because the reason is because when they get to a certain age, they think they are supposed to act that way, and then when they go from 9 to 16, which is the most critical age, they associate it with behavior. And one of the problems with behavior here and in many countries, they beat the shit out of those kids.
So
and they
are you saying
suppress it.
spanking, whippings?
Yes, beatings. Beatings. That means with a whip.
At what age?
They start off sometimes very early, but the worst ones start off between 9 and 16 because they think that that's where you got to straighten back up that pole because things are bad. They think they can do it before the age of 9, so they don't do it as aggressive. It's more yelling and things like that. At 9 and above is like, go get me the whip, let me beat your ass, and they suppress.
Okay, so we're talking about something that happens all over the world.
Everywhere in the world.
So you're saying that this act in and of itself is an atrocious causality to many
not causing the mental illness, the mental illness that's already there. It could be a chemical imbalance, an emotional thing, a social thing. And what happened is that when they're going through it, the parents can't see it, or the siblings, they can't see it. So what they do, if it's bad, they associate it with bad behavior. If it's good, they associate it with the church or wherever they're going.
What's approved discipline though? Because this sounds like an opinion on discipline, and I know people that
yeah, but did they have mental illness? You don't know until they get older. And what happened with this mental illness after 16? What happens to them is that they either start drinking, smoking, a lot of the other things that society considers as something that's going to destroy them. And so when they sort of give them the whipping, all of that stuff that they were doing is suppressed. It's not gone, and it's suppressed. And that mental illness that they have behind that is going to make it worse. Now it becomes imaginary as they get older.
At what point does a child have a mental illness versus one of these progressive measures that you initially spoke about?
Yeah. No, that's what it is. It's a progressive thing, but every time they do something from the age of 9 to 16, that's just like a box. And you have to...
This is what I think it is. Like when children come in the world, they're super intelligent.
Yeah.
And then between the ages of 8 and 16, they get educated. That's what I'm hearing from you. For me, you get educated because this should become something different.
When they're born, they're educated. So it starts.
I think they're intelligent, beyond educated. I think education is a refinement that like systematically orders things.
Yeah.
But intelligence is like creativity. It is.
Yeah, that's a little different.
Yeah. So
but the learning part and becoming smarter is the fact that if they see light, if they just open their eyes for the first time and they see light, they associate it with something. And when they associate it with something, they start thinking about, what is that? Where does it come from? A hold, a hug, one of these things. They're also experiencing that, so they're learning and they're developing at that time. Mm-hmm. And this is like 2 days old. They're associating with all these different things. So I think from that on, you just continue. It's not that they're just bright, but they're experiencing their own experiences.
Does this it sounds like a mental health hazing in a way. It's like they're hazed for differences.
I don't. It's at certain time of that stage as they're developing.
Is it for differences? Is that what's
It's.
being?
I think it's because they're not seeing what society's supposed to mean, or even a child. But let me tell you, there's some good things that actually are seen very negative by the parents. Like
Autism.
a child running around and knocks a cup or a glass over, the cup breaks. The first thing the mother would say to them is like, "Why did you knock that down? Why did you start running around in here?" You know, where he's a child, he likes running around. It's not like, you know, if you do what you're doing, you're going to destroy this and you're going to destroy that. You know, just give them a view of it. And then, but the first thing that some parents jump to is what they did wrong.
Dr. Kevin just popped into the square.
Hi, everybody. Dr. Kevin joining in, popping in and out here and there. Listening over the conversation is quite interesting. A couple of things, especially around that age, where 8 or 9, you sort of get out of what you knew in the house, and you start experiencing the world and adapting just habits to fit into your surroundings. And this boxing in a lot of our growth in that areas and the traumas that we go to. A trauma necessarily doesn't have to be bad, it's just how we deal with it, but it shapes us.
Exactly.
And those are traumas. And when in parenthood, we sort of try to grab the best part from what we were taught, either from parents or people that we meet or people that we consider as family. And the other part where we learn ourselves and compare both, and that's what we try to give our kids, right, to the tools to grow.
Yeah.
Can
I ask
cool.
a good question on that? Because the reason that I brought up is, so if you have, nobody experiences their life or depression or mental illness the same. No one. But let me ask you a question. Suppose the person you're describing, you're describing two, let's say. One of them is mentally ill, but you don't know it. The other one is not mentally ill. I mean, chemical, or, you know, this disbalance that they have. And they're both growing up. How would they judge? Their life is going to be completely different. And you're
I
going to see it
struggle with
different,
this because right now people could come and assess us collectively, and I would be mentally ill if we checked certain questions and answers and gave responses sincerely from our hearts.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if this guy's mentally ill. So even just hearing that, like what we're going into so many topics, and we can go on this one thing indefinitely because it's so vast and pervasive, even from how it starts and just how there's so many finite considerations for different box and permutations. But I want to get back to the fact that we're living in a world right now where stress and depression are going to kill more people than a virus with a 98% success rate, and then it's insane how hard this thing is going to hit. And I know you're seeing patients from time to time, just the health effects of people that forget the other stuff. People don't even know that they're depressed.
Exactly. But the problem is, just like Max is saying, in order to heal that, you also have to heal the nutritional part of it. Because if they continue not eating or eating the wrong things, or things that are going to stimulate them much more on what they're going through, it's going to be a problem.
So that's a very big part of things. What we determine, in fact, are the way we vibrate, just how the lymphatic system goes through everything.
Mm-hmm.
But food and emotions, I think we have a good knowledge and grasp of distribution of food and not food, the knowledge of what we should eat. I'm sorry. Let's rephrase that. And then knowledge and science and then the spiritual, but nobody really teaches you about emotions.
Yeah.
Recognize your emotions to go to that. And in sense,
Mr. Rogers did.
And where did you go? No, but where do you go when you have the emotion? Like, you know, let's say somebody that soothes, like for instance, when I get sort of like sad or, you know, some kind of, I eat, man. And there are some people, they go through the sadness and they don't eat. So emotion is associated with food. Suppose I'm grabbing food now, and I'm grabbing the wrong thing. I go over there and I have some Fresco lemonade with a ton of sugar in there, and then I pick up a nice sweet cake that I like because that's what's going to satisfy me. And I think if I was to had a choice, I should have picked up like a watermelon, or one of the fruits that can,
Hindsight. That's that hindsight.
Exactly.
But it's funny because something that I will not do, and in the moment, and sometimes it helps them get out. I will not eat food from someone that is upset, whether it's me or to someone else. If they're sitting in there talking and cooking this food charge, this kind, I'm like,
energy is being transferred.
it's going right into the food.
Negative energy, negative adrenaline. That's why animals, when an animal kills its prey, it kicks it and won't eat it for a while usually.
Right.
That's because they know that the toxin that the
reaction.
animal experienced, that the adrenaline is toxic to,
So that's what-
to eat it.
So you're telling me that's what cats are doing all the time? Are they not playing with their food? They're letting the toxins?
Yeah.
You know,
letting the adrenaline die down.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, when you inject a cow or anything, you have to inject them to calm them down, or else you taste that crap in the meat.
It's the same reason that you boil dogs when they cook the meat in Asia. The reason they boil the dog alive is because of how the meat turns out when the dog is stressed. Similar to how this thing
Cattle
called
too.
adrenochrome, this most super pervasive thing on earth, is created. It is created from the tortured children. Is the best way to get this adrenalized, oxidized adrenaline, and it's insane.
Oh, it's another subject, but
True, I agree.
But yeah, so going back to this thing, if what Max is saying, that the nutrition part, if I was taught, for instance, to deal with sad or depressing things for me, to grab onto the right food from a child.
But who teaches this? I don't think it's taught. No one's teaching
and
it.
that's what we're.
He's saying it's the point. It needs to be
It's
there.
the point that needs to be there. You know,
At what
thought
age,
maybe,
or is it the parenting? Because so much is put onto
Yeah.
children's and
exactly.
educators. and
It's
like,
actually the parenting, and some kids, like you said, grow up just kind of having the feel, just like an artist. They have the feel for what's there, and some people can like go directly to a cucumber or something and eat it because it's not sweet. It's and it's gonna calm them down, probably the juices. Where I was taught, man, you get like the best food that I like are sweet things, so I go towards the sweetest thing possible. And what's gonna happen if there's that sadness is gonna be much stronger, because now it's hypered in because of the sugar. The sugar kind of makes you a very hyper.
Yeah.
So instead of eating something that should have actually calmed me down a little bit, let me think about it. With all that sugar and stuff in there, while I'm having my problems, man, I'm like jumping.
Hey, man, I feel you. And through all this process of learning and sort of seeing that really the things that we eat shape us mentally, emotionally, and also physically, of course, it's hard. It's hard to choose that and to kick sugar. I mean, this is something personally I
It's
really
super
love.
addictive.
That's the thing.
And
I
it's
think
there.
that plays a big role right now also, because of all this depression, people can't leave. They're trying to obey the rules as possible. Then they see other people breaking the rule, and then they're wondering, and then all this other stuff that's going.
Uncertainty.
Yeah, exactly, and the uncertainty of what's going to happen next and what's next week, and so you're going through this thing, and you're home. Number one, you don't have enough money to buy the food, and then you try to eat whatever is available, and that's another problem.
And then, yeah.
All right. So right now we're saying things that everyone knows. Give me something that an everyday individual can do better for their health or their wellness that's practical. Like whether you got funds, you got the fridge to hold, the access to. What can someone practically do right now? Just one thing.
I can tell you one thing about just, let's say, being black, for instance. I know it's not racial, but it has to do with being black. One of the biggest problems, and you can look this up, one of the biggest problems of depression among black people is low vitamin D, insufficient vitamin D. Where do we get the vitamin D from? From the sun.
The sun.
The sun. Okay, most of it is from the sun that forms it, because it forms through the kidney and liver, but this you can eat and receive it. So you're getting D2 or D3, which is not the vitamin D.
Gotcha.
And so when you don't have these things and you lack it, it causes chemical imbalances. But what they call vitamin D, it's actually something called a pro-hormone. That means it activates all of the hormones in your body, activates your reaction, your mental state. You can be emotionally sick because of mental disbalance.
Right.
And what vitamin D does is will give enough stuff that needs to break that down. And so that's a huge problem, especially here. Even though we're in the tropics, we're still UVB, which is the one that makes vitamin D. UVA is the one that protects you from melanomas. But still yet, you're being blocked on both.
Because?
The good one and the bad one, because of the skin color. Because of the skin color.
Okay.
So
how do we?
So what we need to do is find out more about the foods that you can eat, or even the supplement of vitamin D, and the levels of what you need. For instance,
don't salmon and tuna give you
but very little.
specific?
But how many kids here can buy? How many people here can buy?
Okay, that's what I was saying. Okay, that's the part. How many can buy it versus what simple step can you take?
Yeah.
But the children here would rather get some chicken and some alcohol versus this one thing that
But they
if
can't
you
get
equate.
it, yeah.
So no, they could
What's
get
easy?
it.
No, they make the alcohol more accessible for you than that tuna. Okay.
But the price, that's why I'm going back to the
even
value.
the price.
You got to teach the
Even the
value.
price.
No, I disagree.
The alcohol
I
is very cheap. You buy a piece of tuna and see how much that costs here versus a bottle of alcohol. And how many people you're going to feed on that one piece of tuna versus how many people you're going to drink on that one bottle is going to make you happy. But
no sympathy for the lack of value or awareness, because if you are aware of this, right now we also live in a place where even though there are a lot of foreigners and a lot of mixing, the awareness and focus on food and health is abundant here. So even the locals can't help but to accidentally fall into the fact that, or people that really don't care about their body, you're going to accidentally fall into a conversation about, hey, this tea does this food does this, you're going to hit that in this area. So to not know is like kind of a choice at this point.
But they're not doing it, even though they're not doing it. So that's the thing with this lack of, so this depression, and nobody here wants to see a psychiatrist. You tell a black man, hey, let's go see, me don't ban, I don't mad, like they're associated with craziness. Not just a social or a depressing problem at that time, but they're associated with clear madness. And so nobody's going to do that. But I think one of the best ways is somehow or another get these supplements of vitamin D, or find out about all the plants that have vitamin D and the dosage. Because plants, sometimes I know they say it have it, but it's very little. Like, for instance, lemongrass is supposed to contain zinc. But the quantity that we need, it's very low even when we make a tea. The quantity is so how do we know, like, let's say if you're going to make a 6-ounce cup of tea, how many leaves do you need? Somebody can say, look, you have to have more than 6. If you have less than 6, not doing nothing for you. Yeah, so we need that part, the dosage and how.
So is there anything that you know that we can consume that helps? I know you said.
Yeah, no.
Nothing
I don't know.
for this.
I know things that I would have to experience it myself in order to have an opinion on it.
Okay.
Because people tell me things, they tell me what it contains, but I've not experienced that, so I've not been doing it.
I got you.
So that's the.
So sunlight is still the best.
Sunlight is the best. Sunlight is the best, but you have to go out there. You have to go outside. That's the problem.
Wait, the sunlight is outside?
Yeah.
They make lights in the store called sunlight.
Make sure you repeat that to any kids that sit down with their computers.
No, there's a light. Usually you can actually buy sunlight.
You can. But
you can buy sunlight.
But the cheapest way. Let's do it the cheapest way.
You can put your plants under it.
And sometimes they have them in gardens where the kids are playing and there's no sunlight. There's the shade all over. I mean, people, and then the evening time, they come out a little bit. But a lot of people are not coming out, and that thing is getting worse. And it's very easily curable. One of the second thing of curing some of these mental illnesses that are associated is to plant things. One of the problems with depression is that there's no end. Sadness, there's a good time, there's a bad time, and this might end. Depression, there's no ending. And so one of the big treatments, I think,
to grow things,
exactly, grow things. You see the cycle and you see death. And you see the cycle and you see death, and that's like a curing thing. And if you start off the kids with that, when they get into one of those stages that they can't plant anymore, they're living in New York in a building where there's no plants, and they want to associate with it, then they can think back, I used to plant this thing, and then I see the
That's
seed
interesting.
pop
It
up,
makes sense.
and then I get this fruit. And
in Western cultures, we're not taught to own our health. And the reason why we're not taught to own our health, I was thinking about this morning. In my lifetime, my adult life, I probably had 10 or 12 doctors, that I would go to periodically for my healthcare needs. Not a single doctor that I've ever had, even when I was married with my kids, not a single doctor ever discussed nutrition with me.
That's true.
Or my family. Dr. Kevin is the only one that I've had a conversation with about the importance of nutrition for healthy living. And because we're not taught to own our health, what do? We get the slightest little problem, we go to the doctor, he gives us a pill, and we're on our way.
Yeah.
We haven't really solved the problem. So many people are ill or have even died simply because they were lacking nutrients. They were lacking vitamins. They were lacking minerals in their body.
Yeah.
And to start with, both for men and women, as Armando said, vitamin D critical. The other three critical vitamins are B, C, and E. B, C, and E, and then the minerals, zinc and magnesium.
Yeah, zinc, magnesium, calcium. Yeah.
Absolutely critical. And when we embark on the supplement path of wellness, be careful with multiple vitamins because you got a lot of filler. Be careful.
Multiple or multi?
Multivitamins. Some say multiple.
Yeah.
Some say multi. Some say multiple.
Okay. Right.
It's really the same thing.
Gotcha.
But really, what they're doing
Package. Yeah.
is they're saying that this one vitamin has 10 different vitamin types incorporated in there. Well, I've just found,
but not enough.
It's never enough.
So that's why when you're selecting, it's better.
And the basis for them are only laboratory.
Exactly.
So it's like this is more or less what we observe, but not taking into account different chemistry of body. The microbiome really is one of the most important things and mostly neglected. You need your own probiotics. You need to have your own natural bacterial that will decompose things. Without that, you won't absorb. Even if you have tons of vitamins going in, if you cannot absorb them because there isn't something here to degrade them for them to be useful, they'll just go straight through.
Now watch this. Watch this. In consideration of food, planting, the body, specific nutrients, if you urinate on the plants that you grow, they direct the nutrient release to what they sense you're missing or need. The DNA is programming this is to come and feed you. Do you know that that's not taught? No one will talk about that. That is like water is programmable, but urine is a part of your whole sequence and cycle of what you have, what you don't have, what needs to move, what's still there.
And you can safely drink your own urine if you have to.
No, not even if you have to.
Yeah, but it causes,
I was talking about this yesterday. Yeah. No, I have drank my piss for months. And what you do is your diet has to be clean.
See, the ammonia in there is like very
different. High. That's why you age it, though.
Exactly. Oh. No less than 3 weeks.
Oh, I thought you said that you've been...
No, it ages a minimum of 3 weeks.
And
it ages better.
Oh, I thought you were drinking it for that time. Okay.
No. Like, and you let it. No, hell no. But
no, because the ammonia in there, when it's there, that ammonia is like, if it doesn't evaporate, man, that's too strong for your body.
Urine and breast milk do something to the body that I can't even explain about food. And you have to think, breast milk gives a child everything needed for it to become everything else. So the fact that there's so many women that have excess breast milk that is being frozen, do you realize I come from a group of people in a realm of business and so forth that all these psychopaths and their wives, they get the breast milk of other people.
I know.
Their children drink breast milk.
A lot of people used to sell it.
And on television, they try and get people on Similac and these things that give babies ear infections because somehow it's like taboo to breastfeed in public.
Your immune system goes into that milk, and the baby, and so the baby's immune system for the first 6 months is basically yours. So you have a lot of things that can recognize. And
But this is what I'm saying. Urine and breast milk do some amazing things.
well, older people knew this for a lot, especially with urine.
But why did it stop?
And skin. They
Oh.
used to,
If you
take
get,
the urine
if you
and,
get tapped by
just-
a jellyfish, if you get stung by a jellyfish, what are you supposed to do?
yeah, urine, ammonia.
You're supposed
yeah.
to piss on it.
Yeah, because of the ammonia. But exfoliation of skin in the older people, when the baby used to urinate in their diaper, they used to take that and wet their face because it exfoliates, and it's so the baby's skin is constantly changing. It's constantly changing.
Right.
There's a cream that's actually made. I don't think anybody has ever made it, but when a baby is born, there's a cream that's covering. It looks like a powder after
Yeah.
it looks like a white powder. That thing
So
is
layers of skin.
layers of skin. But that deterioration of that is one of the best stuff for your skin.
What is it?
It's a greasy, like.
It's like
substance. Yeah.
It's really weird, but it's
What is it?
It's a natural lubricant for the baby to come out.
What is it? Like, what is it
chemical-
called?
It's like
What is it?
lipoprotein.
yeah. I don't know. But the thing is that it's basically made up of skin from the baby. But I don't know what is it called.
It's a glycoprotein.
What happens to it after the child comes out? They pull you out of it. That's that layer of.
Yeah, it's not the water. There's another.
No, that's the
layer.
afterbirth. Yeah, I know what you're
No,
talking
the water
about.
is still surrounding the baby. When he's in there, he's surrounded with babies, and this thing is on his skin. And
You can
so,
sort of see if
yeah,
the baby
and
was,
so when the
it
water
was or
washes
was
out
not
first,
time.
the water comes
Yeah,
out.
and when it comes out, it peels
Oh,
off.
it is.
Yeah, that's that layer that peels
the
off.
water. No, the water comes out. Yeah, the water comes out first, and then the baby slides out. Right?
Yeah.
And that stuff that's on his skin,
That peels
white,
off within
yeah.
the next. Yeah.
No, it's just there.
Tell me,
As
I
soon
don't
as he's
remember.
born, it's there.
Yeah, but
And
it peels off later.
yeah.
It dries
Oh, yeah,
out and peels off.
continues,
Looks like
continues.
skin. Yeah.
Yeah, it is skin.
Oh, what was it called?
Yeah. So that's one of
Yeah.
the things that I guess they have to teach people. But the going back to the food, I think they should actually continue going back to the old ways and teaching their kids, because a lot of older people don't teach their kids, or the kids don't want to hear it about any plants in their yard. They'll rather go outside and buy this sorrel. They'll rather buy it in the store in a dry package that doesn't even come from here than planting 4 trees, 4 little
But
trees.
there is a gap. Now we need to get to accountability.
Exactly. And
Like
I
we
think,
need. This is where we say them and they, but why is it that you say they don't know? Because you know.
no, it's
So
not.
why
it's not-
did it miss? Like
Yeah.
what happened? Was it marketing? Was
It's marketing more.
education?
Marketing is the most powerful. Because even if the parents know and tell them, they're gonna go whatever is on TV, and that's how they're gonna buy it. They're gonna buy something packaged. It's not even necessarily.
Let's
what
talk
they
about
want.
accountability then. So
Yeah,
who's
so
at fault for
the-
that? Is it the
it's-
parenting that put the screens and let the
It's the parenting and
ads-
surrounding that can't. Even though they have to fight against that, which is very strong, they have to fight against these ads. It's very, very strong, and it's much more. The kids are gonna see that much better than listening to a parent. So that influence that the parents have is being lost, and so they're not able to teach these kids. So sometimes you might need like a grandparent or an uncle and all these things that we used to have in a lot of the families, to replace that. That's not my father thing. I'm not gonna listen to my father, but my uncle told me, so it's okay.
Oh, the messenger and the
Yeah,
message.
exactly. And so I think that's where the fault lies. I think the fault lies there. Before, I would say the commercial and advertisement and things like that, which is really sad. And then we're going for something that's already has no nutritional value when we go into the store. So that craving that we're getting is we're not healing it.
So watch this. To tie all of this into right now, what's going on from how I see it is there's this thing that's put into water and toothpaste. It's called fluoride. You're not supposed to swallow the toothpaste, and yet you drink the water with fluoride. So 1, fluoride's in the body, which calcifies the pineal gland. 2, you have glyphosate, sulfates, how do you say it? Glyphosate. Oh man, I'm looking at it. Glyphosates? Glyphosate. It's these things. I know the word. It just escapes me right now. But this is in your food. This Yeah, this is also in chemtrails. So you have this second chemical added into your body.
Yeah.
2, 3, you have in most countries and cultures, you have vaccines that you are given or immunizations that you are given as you progress. So you have these programs in your body. Now, what the world is considering is the addition of EMF, electromagnetic frequencies, and I'm going to bring in your communications experience with your medical wherewithal, because I have a question about EMF, radiation, and how much is known and not shared versus what are the effects of low level, or as it progresses, of radiation exposure. So whoever wants to jump in, because I know you came from the communications realm, and what you do, it's around, even if you don't know about it, you're aware of it, it's just kind of downplayed. When it came to radiation around the world, most countries have allowed higher levels of radiation to exist for the purpose of commercial products, but we know that they surpass what is,
The levels,
like the molecules start to change.
The normal levels.
So how much is it known at your level when you were in communications, and it's just kind of like that's just a part of the business? Because right now we talked about how 5G is something we've never seen anything like this, a rollout this aggressive, and what this does to, forget your diet, this touches you regardless of what your diet is. But yeah, how is this spoken on and avoided in communications?
Well, technology is really not concerned with improving humans' health. Technology
Say that again.
is really not concerned with improving human beings' health. It's business. And just an anecdotal story, a friend of mine has been in telecommunications for probably 30, 35 years. And he was telling me about a situation where he was part of a study with honeybees, and how and there's been many of these studies over the last probably 8 or 10 years, where when they raised the frequency of the signal that is going out via microwave or satellite, whatever, that as that signal is raised, that signal impacts the honeybee's internal radar system, to where that is being viewed as the primary culprit as to why so many honeybees are dying or not producing and pollinating the way they used to. And so, from what I've read, they're actually hacking the breeding process of the honeybee now, to where they will not be impacted by these radio waves, to where they can continue to do what they're supposed to do.
So rather than cut the waves, we'll modify the bees.
Change the
bees, because, like as I said, we're talking commerce.
It sounds like
business.
people, man. It sounds like people in the cities now.
Yeah.
If you can't, in a lot of cities, if you can't, just replace them.
So electromagnetic frequencies, radiation at low levels.
Yeah. So that's the thing. How do you know it's low level?
Exactly.
And the amount of cumulative levels that are there. So
what are effects of radiation?
Well, the effects are terrible. Most of them they're mental. They're your eyes, your ears, sound, your taste, your body, your entire body. So the effects are really bad. But the thing is that how do you know when the doses are too high and how much accumulates within your body during that specific time?
So it should be tested before it's applied?
Well, it may be because you can't stop it. Maybe that's the best thing to do. Maybe that's the best thing to do is to test it and change.
I disagree
just
that
like
it,
you're
I
saying with the
disagree that
bees.
it, I disagree that it can't be stopped. I do think that it is so pervasive, and the convenience of wireless communication has become such an addiction that we're talking some of the most conscious, aware, open to heal people that we know would be like, guys, we're not about to tear down the whole wireless network
Exactly.
for the health of everything.
Yeah.
We can't heal everything like that. That's like, so that's a big step, but we know that things have changed. We know this.
Yeah.
Like, watch this. So I remember in the not so distant past, and both of you guys can relate to this, when you would take a car ride over 10 miles, 20 kilometers, and by the time you got to point B, you were wiping bugs off the window and the
Yeah,
front of the
just,
hood like crazy.
Yeah.
What happened to the bugs? Like, we talk about the bees, but the bugs, and I'm talking in the jungle,
Yeah.
we're not wiping it off. In cities, I'm driving through Europe
yeah.
and all, and I'm like, where are all the bugs that we used to run through? You would see it on the windshield, you would just,
Yeah.
you're like, damn, look at that one.
Yeah.
What happened to that?
Yeah, they're
So yeah,
just
the
there.
bees are easy to see and test, but
Yeah.
everyone can really realize, like, guys, where are all the bugs that we used to run into?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is a puzzle of several environmental factors. It can be pollution in the air. It can be the radio waves, microwaves, radiation. There's so many things that play into that equation that frankly, as nations, developed nations, the United States in particular, as commerce and technology continues to proliferate and grow, the environment, unless something dramatic happens, is going to, and it already is, especially in this administration, is taking a back seat to the things that scientists actually know harm human beings.
Yeah.
Such as, is it with the 5G installs, is that included, or what are you
Well, you know.
saying? Or an example, I'm just saying, what's an example?
Well, I personally haven't read any papers or any op-eds regarding 5G that bring a quantified and measured scientific approach to saying that 5G is causing this, 5G is causing that, beware 5G because of this and that. You know,
Approach the question differently.
Okay.
Is 5G more safe than 4G? Because if it was, do you know that would be a great reason to market it versus not having any studies? So just, let's ask that question. Is 5G healthier than 3G or 2G? Because I see what you're saying, but how can something that is coming so fast and being installed have no shared finite research on what it does? That is scary.
Well, the research is there.
On 5G, it's a weapon.
Yeah, because I mean, it's like anything in the world of business. Anything in the world of business, or most things in the world of business, have lobbyists that go to Washington and lobby for their special interests. It's the same with technology, anything else. At the end of the day, there's very few lobbyists for a healthy human life. Because that
nobody's going to donate to that.
No, nobody's going to donate to it. Politicians aren't interested. So it goes back to what I said earlier, and that is owning your health.
Yeah.
Practical way. What is that now? Right now, tell me how I can own my health.
Okay, great question.
I want to know.
We can own our health first and foremost by knowing who we are and what makes us tick.
Self-awareness.
Self-awareness and the psychology behind the self-awareness. And one of the primary psychological studies in probably the last 75, 80 years, especially since Carl Jung, the father of modern psychology, is that locus of control right now is front and center with what I view as the psychological and emotional health of people around the world that are going through this pandemic. Why? Because so many people feel helpless. So many people feel, because there's two areas of locus of control. One is internal, one is external. The internal is how much an individual thinks and believes that they have control over their life and have control over their situation in life, including their family. External locus of control is how much control one has over the outside world, the environment. And in my conversations, what I have found, especially going back to March, is that so many people, their control mechanisms, their coping mechanisms, are something now that they've never really had to understand. And now that people are looking for ways to cope, ways to be healthy through this psychologically, emotionally, and physically, they're reaching out and they're looking for information. That said, the foundation of what we are aware of and what we believe we control internally and externally, what I see is so many people that see themselves as the victim to the pandemic, which says that their external locus of control is very low. They may have a high internal locus of control, but their external is very low. That can be actually a healthy mix, because one thing about psychology, most behaviors can be changed. Most things can change, and the underpinning of locus of control or any other behavior that we human beings are all made up of is something called mindset. Every person that I have a coaching call with or just a personal call with, I listen to what their mindset, if I've known them for a while, I listen to their mindset now versus what their mindset was before the pandemic. And it's totally different. People that used to have a fixed mindset, which is,
This is
kind
the way it
of
is.
the stuck mindset.
Yeah.
I got no control over what's out there. I'm just going to deal with it. The best way I possibly can. And then you have the growth mindset, which is the person that says, you know what? Yeah, I can't control COVID, but I can control me. And I am going to grow through this. I made that decision myself back in March, that I was going to really take a deeper look into my health.
Yeah.
And I've done that. So at the end of the day, there is an opportunity in this storm if we look for it. And I suggest to anyone that is viewing this communication that you take a deeper look into your overall health and well-being. Because if you're not doing it, no one else is going to do it for you.
Wait, the governments care about your health. That's why they want you to wear a mask and feel better and get a vaccine, because they care. What do you mean?
Well, it goes so much deeper than that. The government can give a rat's what about our diet. The government, they say they do, but they don't. We have to take control over what is most precious to us. I challenge anyone to say that outside of one's being and outside of one's family and the people they love, that there is nothing that should be more important than one's health and well-being. Now, some people would say, no, my money is more important than that. My money is more important than this. Well, teach his own. For me, and I got this from my father, it's one of the things that one of my takeaways in his teachings, indirect teachings with me and my siblings, and that was the importance of health. He and my mother, and this is back in the 50s and 60s, they were walking everywhere. My father had a gym in his basement, man, in the 50s and 60s. You know, so I grew up, and we had a small farm, you know, a produce farm, and so I grew up in a family where I had a sense of what healthy eating was, even though everything we planted with fertilizer, because we didn't have the knowledge back then. We planted with fertilizer and manure. That was the fertilizers that our crops grew from. And so no one knew about organic, you know, in the 50s, 60s.
The term didn't exist. It was just food or not food.
Yeah, food or not food.
Yeah.
And so fast forward now, I suggest to anyone viewing this that if you really want true wealth in this life, yes, money's important. It's always important. But if you want true wealth in this life, take care of your health. Take care of your health. And that means exercise. It means thinking positive. It means proper diet. It means anything that we consume, that we think about it before we consume it.
What would you say to that?
Yeah. No, I think he's correct. Yeah. That's interesting.
So a question from behind the scenes is what we see.
That's not going to work.
No?
No.
All right.
And this is the closing notes, so jump on in.
Ooh. Coming around. So I do have a question though. So food, and you said intake.
Mm-hmm.
Does that account not only for water, air? What about content? The social contact with people.
The food of this.
Absolutely. I mean,
Because this is nourishment.
Yeah. I mean, that's why you know, like this is like the second interaction.
Therapy.
This is like the second interaction that we've had like this. And I mean, Armando and I, we kind of communicate daily, either speak or text or whatever. But you know, we've been talking about how important that human interaction is, especially now.
Yeah.
So look, mask and social distancing. Mask and social distancing are taking place right now.
Yeah.
You want to talk about why depression and stress are about to kill so many people. Forget, like, I can't think about creative outlet because I'm stuck on money. I want to talk about my health, but I got to get money, but I can't work, I can't live. I'm stressed out, I'm depressed, and I don't know it. I don't have a creative outlet. What can we do? Like, I know you made suggestions, but as an individual, either what can you do or what are you doing right now? And this will be the last note, and then we'll leave. You can go first?
If I may. Go first. And this is, I think, humbly very important.
Mm-hmm.
Guard the conversations you have with yourself in your head.
Yeah.
Because 4 months ago, when this first kicked off, I was being unusually harsh with myself. And I didn't realize it until I really just sat down and I said, Max, you know, why are you being mean to yourself? You know, because there was so much happening. Why are you being mean to yourself? You can't control COVID. You can't control you know, what's happening around the world, because you know, I'm an empath, so I kind of absorb a lot of things that I probably shouldn't be absorbing, but that's who I am. But anyway, the healthy approach to this is to, when that negative thought about anything comes into your head, it's just like changing channel on the TV. Change the channel. Go to something positive and productive, and to something you mentioned earlier, the importance of creativity. Every day, do something different. Even if it's driving to work, a different
way.
route.
Yeah.
Even if it's talking or meeting someone that you've never talked to or never met before, no matter what it is,
Create possibilities.
keep your mind positive and fresh, and it will produce positive results.
So what are you doing right now, or how are you helping?
I think that's the thing. I'm going back into like walking and doing simple things that I used to do, and eat a little better. You know, that's what I'm
Conscious
doing.
eating.
Yeah,
Conscious.
yeah. Better food and the amount that I consume also. Not only the amount, which is important.
Can you feel a difference?
I'm beginning to feel it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm beginning.
Yeah.
You wanna jump in?
Yeah, I'll tie it in a little bit. There's, if you keep your mind clean and you act from a place of a good place, whatever that looks for you in your mind, things will have a great outcome. No matter what you do, no matter what else can happen, even if it all goes to shit, you'll still be happy if you do it with the right intent in mind.
Yes. Yes.
Keep your intentions clean, true only to yourself. Anything else is just extra stuff, but if you keep that clean, thoughts clean, eat well, nourish yourself with people you cherish, you might be okay.
And be careful with the negative influence around us.
Yeah.
The negative people, because there's people in life that, since they can't produce any positive energy themselves, they need to take it from other people. And so what I try to do every day is, when I'm engaging people, even if they may say something negative about the pandemic or about the economy or whatever, I always try to give them something positive back. I may feel like crap that day, but I will still smile and try to give them
keep
something.
that smile.
Yes, try to give them something positive, because literally I was a kid when I first heard this, but it is a fact. It takes more energy to be negative than it does to be positive.
Yeah.
It really
It
does.
takes more muscles to frown than it does to smile.
Yeah.
It takes more muscles to frown.
Yeah.
It's like turning that frown upside down. So in closing, things that I'm doing and making accessible is, I make and share stories and moments that I've experienced that are relatable, highly processed, and go through a level of discretion, as I shared with you all earlier, that I'm sharing with the world. These are my trips through this thing. This isn't made for entertainment. And along the way, I have tuned into the frequency of 432, which is the result of the square root of the speed of light, which is a healing frequency. So on another level, as we talked about what radiation does, I know what frequencies do. So that's another level of nutrient. And it's like a force field that I have had around. So in addition, and piggybacking on what you all said, be more conscious of everything that deals with you. Everything. The conversations you're having, what are you listening to? What are you eating? Read the package. If you see an E number on a package of food that you're eating, what is that? It doesn't say corn, sugar, corn syrup. It says E649 or A19. What the hell is that? So just be conscious, and being more conscious automatically evolves into something else. It's like you can't stop it. If you just start consuming more awareness by default, it begins to just build. You don't have to be a genius to put somebody, you see some idiots that start putting stuff together, and you're like, hey, that's a dumb, but they got this right, because they just, even the dummy can get this. So just be more conscious of everything that deals with you. All that other stuff is, but this digests all that. So just get in touch with all of this stuff. So I'm with you guys. I really appreciate this second conversation. Something that we're going to get into next time, and I told you, is this metaphysical conversation. Metaphysics and layers of this experience that are limited by objections to more than what we can understand. So thank you all.
Thank you.
And let's keep rocking.
That's it.